Buongiorno a tutte e a tutti.
Good morning to everybody. We will start today and we are approaching the end of our conference, but today we will address a very important subject, very important topic that's very much linked to yesterday's topic, path and perspective for the future in the perspective of the female education. So all the resources that women have and share in order to have preventive education. With us, we have remote, connected remote and in presence. We have Shawna Rebello, special project executive of Don Bosco Green Alliance in Mumbai. Then also the moderator, the Maria Zervino, president of the World Union of Catholic Women's Organizations. And then she will introduce the speakers, so enjoy a fruitful session.
Buongiorno.
Good morning.
Sì, no?
Now you can
Ci
hear
sarà
me,
prima
right?
di tutto
So,
la parola
all,
della Presidente di questa sessione, Shawna Rebello, Coordinator of Don Bosco Green Alliance Mumbai. Grazie.
So the Special Project Executive of Don Bosco Green Alliance in Mumbai.
Thank you. I've never experienced air pollution. Your Excellencies, Reverend Sisters and Fathers, distinguished guests, educators, and everyone joining this esteemed international congress online. Those are the words of a bright-eyed 12-year-old child. He lives in Delhi, the capital of India, known to have the worst air quality of any major city worldwide. A metropolis where the horrendous air irreversibly damages the lungs of 50% of all its children, a staggering 2.2 million little ones. It turned out that the child's parents had kept her insulated from the bad air by not smoking, installing air purifiers, and commuting only in their own air-conditioned car. Being one of the 9 in 10 people on this earth who breathe polluted air every day, I was rendered speechless. What life lessons do you think she is learning? There are many ways academics prepares us. In our campuses, we are meant to acquire our highest potential as human beings, as we learn values, foster friendships, play, exercise, gain skills, and understand concepts. However, educational resources that prepare us for life in the world can be surprisingly uncommon. On a global scale, 30 years of failed negotiations by skilled diplomats have shown that vast scientific research and evidence has not convinced us to get our act together to avert the climate emergency. We live in a world that profiteers by commoditizing bountiful resources into scarcity, that compels vulnerable women to give up work and forces girls to drop out of school as they are sooner affected by the deepening planetary crisis. Humankind's greed apathy, and selfishness is hurtling us faster and deeper into ecological and social collapse. We are educated in technology and economy, whose unholy nexus pitted development against the environment, polarity that never should have been. What about life skills? Financial security largely enables us to escape the tragic reality that is gender violence. But how many of our teenagers finish schools with financial literacy, like knowing how to invest or operating a bank account? Take the quest for a career. Does our education equip us to cope with the rut of earn, eat, expect? Has our academics effectively taught us how to effectively resolve conflict or grapple with the glass ceiling, the silencing we face as women, the discrimination and grudges against menstrual leave, maternity benefits, time off for childcare and household chores? We may learn about mass media and communication, but do we learn how the media enforces gender stereotypes, or how objectifying beauty ideals for women can be? How much of formal teaching time is devoted to dismantling socio-economic prejudices or destigmatizing mental health? Life experience and the culture of respectful and open encounter enrich us in a way pure academics does not. These means of informal education enable us to apply our siloed knowledge and skills in an integrated and interdisciplinary manner, in a way that brings out and highlights the nurturing aspects of the feminine. Unfortunately, many learners do not know how to do that. Fortunately, the pedagogy of the preventive system propagated by the Daughters of Mary help of Christians over the past 150 years is geared towards doing so through encounter, experience, faith, loving kindness, a meeting of minds and hearts. This pedagogy primes us for an ecological conversion, both personal and at the community level, as envisaged by Pope Francis in Laudato Si. It is this profound ecological conversion that enables the actualization of an integral ecology that recognizes our interconnectedness and dependence on the intricate web of life, and dialogues with our cultures, our education, beliefs, ethnicities, societies, economies, technologies, politics, for a true sustainable and social development. May our dialogues and discussions at this third session today be fruitful in discovering pathways that turn women's resources for education more holistic and more relevant to overcome the challenges of our times. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shawna, very much for this great and encouraging speech regarding how to apply Laudato Si, especially coming from a so young woman. Thank you very much. Now allow me Adesso parlerò in italiano.
Now we'll speak into Italian.
Vi prego di permettermi una piccola
Invite you, and I would like to introduce myself. I'm Maria Lia Zervino. I'm from Argentina. I'm sorry, my Italian is not perfect. I'm really touched that I'm here with you today. So embraced, so many Salesians around me. Thank you very much for this kind invitation. For me, it's really an honor. Normally, around me there are laity because I'm the president of World of Catholic Women's Organization. So there we have 8-10 millions of women that are in these organizations all over the world in so many different continents. So I'm extremely happy to be with you today. So I'm asking my colleague Alessandra Morelli to take a seat here, and I will give the floor then to our first participant and speaker. Today we have two speakers, very interesting speakers. One is connected remotely, and I'm referring to Luigina Mortari, who she is the ordinary professor of social pedagogy of Verona, and she's responsible also for the Institute for Innovation, Research and Innovative Research. She's author also of several volumes, in particular on the care as a paradigm, anthropological paradigm and pedagogical paradigm. And therefore, she will give us an extremely important input to have a better view of the future. Till now, we went through our roots, history, all the challenges of the present, and now we are trying to elongate our perspective, looking forward, and so the education and the matter of the preventive system. So Luigina Mortari, the floor is yours. Good morning. Can you hear me? Thank you very much to all of you and for such a kind invitation for this extremely important day. And all such initiatives are dedicated to education are important. Therefore, speaking about education, this historical moment is not only a scientific privilege, but also a political duty. When I'm talking about policy and political, I'm referring to the practice of making human lives as much updated and much up to the modern times. Because today why is such a duty to take about care? Because we are a neoliberalist world, and in such world, the education in a certain way banded in some modes that in a certain way betrayed the profound sense of education. Education in our reality. The speaker who introduced me, that she has really a high profile. In my context, I see a kind of banded education that to the economical interests, financial interests of our world. And by doing this, forget that we are a spirit unit, a spirit being. So we have a dimension, we should have a dimension, should go beyond the world market. And school and the youth formation is not only functional to the working world, but yes, of course, each of us has to find his own place in the world from an economical perspective, from the oikos perspective, an enormous perspective means these two Greek words, oikos, home, and nomos, law. So in order to feel us as citizens of the world.
più lentamente, così è più facile
Could
per
you
l'interprete.
speak a bit slower, so it's even easier for the interpreters? So what is occurring is to see a kind of education that is turned out to be fundamental in education and learning, because a process to which some competence are given, conceptual and procedural concepts that are very needed to get and be active in the world. But the world as such is really the world that we wish to have as Christians. This world, as it's governed by the strong powers, is this a world where we have all the chances to cultivate ourselves as human beings and fundamentally to build our spiritual dimension? I do think that each of us can say that is not this the world that we want to. We want a world that we know that we have a world that is constantly threatened by wars, but at the same time has a lot of cultural and social inequalities. So the economic resources are in the hands of the few, and the most number of people have lived through a difficult life, a hardship, and have difficulties in complete their being. So we do not could think that the model of formations of the youth is the model that helps to enter young people the world. Instead, they should prepare to change the world, to set up a world that must be human, must be deeply human, according to the dimension. I think each of us here share the Christian vision. So this is the introduction. So an education that aims at changing the world, that should build up solidarity logics instead of power logics, the welcoming and embracing logics instead of marginalization, the logics for justice by offering everybody, so that everybody it could be up to. So this, I think, is the vision that should guide us when we are trying to think up this new education. So that's why we need new concepts, new paradigms, a concept that has always been marginalized in not only in the pedagogical world, but also in the theory of education, as well as politics and ethics, is the concept of cure. We thought that cure was a word that could have been used at the medical environment. We could just talking about care about infants. We could talk about care in those people that are extremely fragile. But we forget that to use such a concept to set up education. Instead, if we keep on analyzing the meaning of education, we find that educare comes from educare, not escucere. It comes from the Latin first conjugation, educare. Educare means cultivating, nurturing, and having care of. So a fundamental concept of the pedagogical act is care. But what is actually care? Therefore, is extremely essential. It turns out to be a paradigm concept. And so these are the three questions we are trying to answer, to respond in these my remarks, even if I will be brief, because in order to respond such questions, we will try to be brief. But let's try to the first question. what is actually care. I give an answer, and I say by saying that I think is having life at our hearts, caring for lives. This is the best answer, I think, yes, to the essence of care. And I'm starting from a concept that I take from the old philosophy, in particular from Plato, who in his dialogues wrote, isn't it true that all as our beings wish for having good? And Aristotle in the Nomenicaea Ethics says, by replying the Plato question, each human being is oriented, tends to good. All the human beings, all the living beings tends to the good. All of us, also through Simone Weil, this French philosopher, are searching for the good and try to avoid the bad. But this is a tough work, is the work of life, is the work of living, is avoiding the bad. That's really the work of the care. But now, why care is important? Why do we are supposed to leave some criteria and go back to the word care? I will take some ontological analysis of the ontological topics, in particular the Carmelite family. She was Jewish and then converted to the Catholicism. She, during the Nazi times, she was deported from the convent, she was saying, and she was sent to death from the, at that time, from the politics of that time. But one of the books that has a feature as the theological being, theological is a limited being. This book enables us to understand which are the skills of human being that makes care essential. The human being is, in a certain way, is not a full being. It means that is not capable of funding himself. We are born not because we decided to do so, but somebody else did it. So we find ourselves in the world. So this is not our decisions. And this belonging to the world entrusts us to time. Time is the material of our life. There is another philosopher who says that we are entrusted to time, and time will decide when we will leave this world. That's why there is this world of not being fully. So our life is not a powerful life. It's a life of strong dependence for something that precedes us.
E questa fragilità ha a che fare con la debolezza ontologica.
So this fragility has to do with ontological weakness. So the theory of political theories forgot this. So it's not true that the citizens with an autonomous being. Diseased people who got disease, infantry, kids, all citizens, and we are all vulnerable, fragile, and depend on the world we're inhabiting, that can attack us in a certain way. we depend from the others. That we are vulnerable has been clearly shown us by last climate phenomena. We are depending on natural reality who has its own rules. So if we are not come in terms with our logics, the nature in a certain way react, defends itself to the consumeristic world and technologies. Therefore, as vulnerable people, we suffer from nature. But we also strongly depend on the others, because it's from the others that we have the resources for our life. And this happens when we are kids, when we are children, and then in adult times, or when we are sick. Let's think about a newborn. A newborn needs of medicines to be nurtured with joy, and also in his mentally he needs to be given the language tools so that will help him. But also the adolescent, the teen, is highly vulnerable, because when he is facing with the conscience of the living, he needs a support for his own or her own soul. His will follow just main dominating streaming, and therefore all of us needs for those who love us and care for us, and to be loved, to be cared. There is somebody that wish for us love, and for somebody else that receives also our actions. The work is a dependency work which keep us in a constant relation with others. Think about the sick. They are highly dependent. When we are entering a hospital, all decisions are taken on behalf of those who manage the theoretical treatment, and therefore the sick person feels his or her fragility. Think about migrants. Immigrants, when they are coming from another world and they got here in a new world, they got here with nothing else than themselves. So this turns them to be extremely vulnerable, fragile. So this, our fragile situation depends on time that depends for us. So this vulnerable situation asks for the care, but the care for what? Then there is another third quality of the human being, not only fragile, vulnerable, but also we come in the world with some possibility that are expected to be implemented. We are beings that have to work of shaping their experience in order to shape, mold time who is welcoming, embracing us. Not a common time, but a time that is marked by other subjectivity, by other desires, conscience. So what is guiding us? We said that. Plato said is the search for good, but there is another author saying that by guiding everybody in this molding, shaping of existence and the work of living, using a Greek expression, agatsou orestis, the desire for good, agatou. So our life, though fragile and vulnerable, has so many possibilities, skills, ethical, mental, cognitive, pragmatical, practical, of realizing a world that is fully human. And this is the work of care, of caring. So caring is taking in our hands the existence so that the existence can flourish and bloom. Therefore, human condition, given all these qualities who we portrayed, needs care, and care needs is taken to caring for the possibilities so that these possibilities can be implemented. This is education. Education is not only offering knowledge that are already structured, and I will let you notice that Plato, that is the one I inspire. Education, according to another Greek expression, the care of the soul. This is not only trained, formed, it's caring for the soul, of the soul, cultivating our aspiration for transcendency. Transcendency as thought by the Spanish author, that is the desire of being, the desire of getting over what is already there, just to get to the further aspect of ourselves. So what our soul is suggestion, as Augustine was saying, go back to your own and yourself, but it's not, that didn't mean that this is like land on the individual limitations. Instead, is listening to our own being to understand the tension that is taking us elsewhere and guiding us so that we can implement our way of being, our being. And now I get to my third question. How should be, since we are talking about education, the very form of forming, educating, which really responds to the care paradigm? First of all, we're talking about educational care. So care is not only in the hospitals, in the families, but also the structure of, fundamental structure of pedagogy. And therefore, in order to understand how it should be, we have to look at ourselves, because the human being has a gamut of possibilities, of chances that have to be cultivated. Each of us, when start his education, should be treating as a seed that has to put in the earth, and must be cultivated, cared, so that it will be flourished. So in order to understand this cultivating work, to understand what are the right instruments, what action is supposed to be put in place, in which kind of life context to have to be faced, we have to understand what are our possibilities. And our possibilities are many possibilities. We have a cognitive dimension, so the thinking dimension that has to be cultivated. Then we have the affective dimension that we have to cultivate. As Heidegger was saying in his work, fundamental work, Being Time, we are our emotions. We are not only our thoughts, we are always our emotions. We are our emotions, but we are sparkle with emotions, full with emotions. So it's enough to think about the words that are used in the Good Samaritan parable, because in that parable it was said that it was told that a person that was on the street, another person saw him and got beyond him. So got another person and saw this person at the curbs of the street and got over him. And then got the Good Samaritan he saw it. We know that
vuol dire quindi vide e esplagizomai. Vide ed ebbe compassione.
So the gospel that is written in Greek, the Greek said that this person saw him and has compassion. And by having this compassion means he felt the other. And because he felt compassion, and the gospel uses this Greek word, and he has this care, this compassion. Then he took this person to a host who could take care of this person. So thanks to the compassion, he will get to the care. Then we have also another dimension. We have also the aesthetical dimension, aesthetics dimension of the human being and the women of the human being is the dimension which makes us sensitive to search for beauty, of beautiful things. When we are talking about life in the good terms, in the old Greek, kalon, kaya, agaton. So each of us needs beauty. And a nurse actually taught me this. A nurse that is working with mental sick. So to her, she was entrusted the task of to build up a structure for welcoming, daily welcoming patients. So resources were given to her so that she could set up this center for mental patients. And she went to the accountant of the hospital, those who was administering the resources. She asked to have not the usual suppliers to set up the center, but she asked for have the resources to decide it for new suppliers. And she replied that I feel that it's necessary to organize such center as a home. Therefore, I don't want to have sheets that are white or a tablecloth that are not nice. I like to have objects that are typical of houses, of homes. So to build up, to have an environment that gives, transfer the idea of a home. And the patients could live in a positive environment. It is a way of taking care, and many educators are doing also, though, when they are not just limit themselves to get the kids in an educational environment. They are trying to organize this educational demand for the kids dimension. If you think about the kindergarten, some of you are focusing on teaching kids in the kindergartens. I found in kindergartens that I found an educator that when she was, she didn't have much to do, she prepared when she was preparing the cradles for the babies, she was preparing these crepes with butterflies because, and this once again, beauty nurtures the soul. So in this way, the soul is nurtured with a kind of antidotes which fight against bad things of the world that sometimes bad governments of the world world lead to. So we have the political dimension, affective dimension, aesthetical dimension, and then there is also another dimension that should be cultivating in school. This is the spiritual dimension. When some years ago we were back to 2006, I was called from the Ministry of Education in a commission to offer my contribution to draft the curricula. I kept on insisting on the point that we should address the spiritual formation. I define in a lady-like way, because a theoretical of education is drafting educational paradigm, must think about everybody independently of their beliefs, religion beliefs, because spirituality is a dimension which belongs to all human beings, but very often is not permitted to grow. So spirituality is the search of meaning for existence, the research for its own place in the world, a world that we could realize, implement our existential needs. So in order to cultivate the spirituality, we need to fill the time of in our schools with the attention that should be given to the fundamental questions of being, of the being. And I open a parenthesis. A school is a place where answers are found. Rules are given, competence are given, provided, knowledge is provided, inquiries, tools, and so on. But as we do know well from kids, if you're talking with our kids, children have a huge desire for questioning, desire for life. And this question should be replied also for young people. The questions, for example, are what I'm supposed to do throughout time to turn out to have a good time. So this is a fundamental question, should be not remain idle and should be plays a pivotal role for the existence. And then the Plato teach us in the Gorgia what is the good and what is the bad. What is the bad, what is the good, what is the just, what is the unjust. So the Gorgos, so this work of Plato. And so we're thinking about people that by facing inequalities and injustice, they remain silent. What they're seeing leave them indifferent. It's like the Good Samaritan parable. So they are not able of compassion. They are not able to see their call for being responsible for others. That's why we should reason for what is right and what is not right. If there are kids that not have the right resource to live, this should not leave us idle, should not leave us. So we should really feel that some conditions, some desires of each of us should be met. We cannot leave spiritual education to the world just by chance, will be set up or no, will be achieved or not. In each instead educational project should be planned and should be developed. Maybe when also we are seated on the floor, and by sitting on the floor, maybe and discussing, debating on what our being requires from us. And this is not a lost time. This is a fundamental time. It's the very time which will provide us with the immunization against the bad. And unfortunately, we are surrounded by it. And acting for the good by get the bad. So by cultivating the spirit, we get evil far from us, the evil far from us. So we should try to search the relation with the others, the ties with the others. Alone, we are not so powerful. Alone, we cannot build was really equipped to change our reality. And just speaking about my own experience, I tried to research ideal of school, ideal of administering the public thing. It was attentive not to waste anything, offering all services to kids. But for sure, maybe thanks to all my job, I have to leave that place because I resigned because I was alone in that approach, and I couldn't do differently because some important actions, some actions in the world require to have the others' support and the work together, a work that has to carry out together. We can vulnerable, fragile, and we cannot think of working alone. So the project of a good world requires the capacity of building good relations, friendship relations. Without friendship, without the philia, we cannot building anything. Friendship is a fundamental principle for life. And what is friendship in its essence is care. Because the friend, as Aristotle say, wants a good for the other, is not searching for its own good, search for the other's good. So it's happy when the other is happy. And friendship is the relation which illuminates the culture. Because does not demand anything from the other and the group. And then we get to another point, ethical education. Friendship is guided by the virtue of gratuity, being able being in the world not only by saying on our own, is not that the life requires dispersion of energies. Lives should always imply a keep of energy for our own, but in the relation with the others, we have to be capable of generosity, graciousness. Sorry, if we can get closer to the end, I conclude with a sentence of a young girl and a dialogue between two girls. They were confronting themselves on the concept of care, good, friendship, and when we were trying to reasoning of generosity and graciousness means being gracious means that could give my snack to the others. Another girl said, she replied and objected that because no, that's not generosity because you have two snacks and it's easy to give two snacks. So generosity means to have only one snack and giving it that, renouncing to it. So there are small actions that can be done, can nurture the world. And education, most of all, is to search this ethical dimension and the deep love for virtues. And this is the gospel message per se. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening to me.
La ringraziamo tantissimo, professor.
We thank you very much, Professor Mortari, for this really wonderful educational paradigm for care. I think we will have many questions. Please remain with us longer. Now, I would like to share with you what Professoressa Morelli, that she's the expert for humanitarian policies. She has been for over 30 years for the president of for the expert of humanitarian policies, former officer of UNHCR.
Ad alto rischio in
and
dialogo
she
con
was
governi,
facing
la NATO, ONG, società
with different bodies, NATO agencies and third sector. So she really acquired an unbelievable experience, and we are extremely glad that she's with us. And she will have her remarks on women's resources for preventive education.
Grazie di cuore.
Thank you very much.
Sono veramente emozionata di far parte di questo spazio di riflessione, ma anche ricerca di soluzione e tuffo nel futuro attraverso le sessioni di oggi.
We'll go through all the different sessions today. I'm really I'm very emotional because I'm not a pedagogue, I'm not from the academics. I'm a world of women that really live their experience on the field, which was trying to open spaces, and I was trying to build up these spaces in the world with bare hands, because working at the UN doesn't mean to have all the right tools. Me and you are turned out to be an instrument, so you have to think up the impossible to achieve your goals. And my experience was of understanding, and I took 30 years to understand it. The solution of crisis can be solved through nearness. So I will try to join Don Bosco vision of the prevention, of trying to, through my own experience of work on the field, not from the academic world, but now that I'm retired, I really try to educate myself and by transforming my own experience into other resource. So a kind of giving back. This is the minimum that we can do in order to be active citizens, an active citizen, and also to educate and by using a spiritual language to remain as a gift till the last day. This is an important attitude that we should have. So the women resources are very much important for humanizing society. My work in the last 30 years has an objective, was well upon the management, was concentrating on Sahel, Kosovo, former Yugoslavia, Georgia, all war zone where I was sent to and I was in charge of. And in my leadership, because I was in charge of, with a formal mandate of management of the whole country on behalf of the high commissioned, is an Italian man, Filippo Grande, on behalf of the refugee agency. And my aim was to open spaces and keep them. And now I really Mortari, she's another inspirator for my leadership. I share very much the reflection of Professor Mortari. A space that has to be full with care. When I'm talking about opening of spaces, this rupture of self-orientation, rupture of automatism, open furrows, and concentrate care, nearness, and also protection of the dignity of the human being. Well, here I'm very much linked to the fundamental resources of the women have, and I would like to propose a paradigm shift and not keep on talking about human resources with the same rhetoric of the victimism. So the victim that take the floor and try to reach parity, and remains entangled with herself. Today, we want to introduce the very resources that are positive also to male individuals, also to the leadership, male leadership. So this reflection, I take time to mature such reflection, because for a long time I was alone in my role with the male colleagues in Somalia, for example. It was very difficult to search for know-how, but recruiting women, just because it's not in there, was not in their culture that a woman could work in that context. And for the very organization of UN that is considered an enemy in many countries, especially in those countries that you as sisters know well out of experience which are they. And so I feel this nearness once again. So my is a testimony, actually, especially in those countries where terrorism has a unique objective of disrupt quotidian, daily life. And in the inner disrupting schools and education turn out the prime targets of terrorists. Therefore, I've been working for 30 years next to the terrorism. Having next to me, I really exchanged glimpse with terrorism, and I was also attacked because I was also a victim of a terrorist attack in Somalia. There was a grave attack back to 2014. I made it. I'm here. I'm happy that I keep on. I can storytells that event. So what does actually mean to open new space in fragile areas, and by keeping education in those fragile areas through women leadership? This is what I would like to give to you today. Therefore, I would like to propose to reflect on the women tools. These inequalities are there. We keep on fighting against them, these inequalities, but try to communicate something else. That's the female side also can acquire, because the capability of getting humanized, getting us humanized through the values that I already mentioned. I was explaining to my colleagues, my young girl and young boys, that I manage in some crisis areas, and I manage 400 colleagues, for example. I was asked, how can we keep being motivating in the very areas where you could do one leap forward and 10 backward, one onward and 500 backward? So how can we move? Could we move in these imbalances, uncertainties? And then the other question was, how can you manage? How do you manage? How is the feature of your leadership on a daily basis? I wanted to manage uncertainty, and this capable is a very woman feature, because we embrace the unknown, we offer space to the unknown. Without immediately known, we pose in an embracing approach. When back to the space, the concept of space is a very important one in my working experience. The space of the asylum, mediating, opening, so that the refugees camp, they are widespread, and we know places all over the world. So trying to mediate with the government a space that enable people to stay, to be there, and at the same time in that space give a new life, generating new hope, giving once again the breath of life, the opportunity of making people breathe. Why I'm saying this? Because who is compelled to leave his own home, his native origins, who is eradicating, has bound saying, is found himself in a known place, in a known space. So we have to reopen this space, and this is a typical feature of women. In this place, we have to regenerate it with all the care needed, always in line with Mortari's approach that really also absorb it. And so it's important to insert in this care space that care is passion for life. If you want to really sum up what we had: passion for life, passion for the human being, passion for the protection, passion for rights, and also passion trying to put the human rights into the right direction, not backward. So this space and being in this space, staying in this space, in terms of educational space, especially in fragile context, as many of you already working there. So it means that we really have to ensure that the right to grow, the right to dream, and desiring the future of our own dreams can be opened up, can be generated, can be touched. So by knowing that in these areas, education is the very first victim. In wars is for sure the first victim. In the terrorism is the first victims of among the priorities of governments. Education as first victim, because it rules out part of the human beings and is the female human beings. That's why we have to come back together with the females' resources, the access to education. For those weak countries, the access to education in weak countries is not only limited. Sorry, I'm sorry for my Italian. I have never attended the Italian school, so I always attended different schools. At some time, my Italian miss of some words.
assicurare per
So
le
my
bambine
Italian
la scuola diventa un luogo di
stumbles.
protezione.
So ensuring the
Di un luogo
school
di
turns out
diritto
to
alla
be
vita.
a protection, a safe
Un luogo
place,
di
protection for
possibilità
life,
di non cadere in una routine quasi
place where
tracciata e destinata,
even
di
if
sposa e bambina,
there
di
is a destiny that is already
nelle forze
already be
estremiste, o di
projected,
diventare
so being
schiave e oggetti
slaves
sessuali.
or
L'educazione
sexual
nei
objects.
paesi fragili
Then
va
education
oltre.
in the fragile
Diventa
countries goes much beyond.
protezione,
It turns out to be
diritto
protection,
alla
turns out
vita.
to be
Ecco
right to
perché
life.
le scuole nei paesi
That's
fragili,
why
come gli
schools in
ospedali,
fragile
devono essere
countries,
zone franche.
schools should be
E questo è un grande
areas
lavoro da fare tutti insieme, nel dialogo con chi invece questo non lo
should
vuole. Zone
be
di protezione, no trespassing.
no trespassing zone, so free zone, ecco, free zone. Should turn out to be a human crime if the free zone are not respected, because women can be put in a slave situation. In such a way, we understood education. So by embracing 100,000 people. I was in the midst of the Sahel crisis in Niger. So the displacement of people is extremely complex. Displacement is not just due to one reason, conflicts, but it's a reason of so many different reasons: war, conflicts, climate change, economic necessities are all realities that trigger complex movements, refugees that walk next to the ones that has the economic problems. Do not forget eco-refugees. So how I couple my feminine mission with Don Bosco missions, or what so Piero so Grazia told me, they wish to ask us, we would like to have more. Then I start reading the life of Don Bosco, you know, the romantic vision of Don Bosco, the missions of Don Bosco, we have all love each other and so on. Instead, I'm talking about the Don Bosco missions by leaving the courtyard, by touching the fragile areas of the world, and the vision of Don Bosco, the feminine vision of Don Bosco. So to work, that means to take
smarrito e dimenticato nelle periferie del mondo,
to take what is in the suburbs, what is in the margins, into the centers through education. So prevention. Prevention is a passion for life and human. It's really care. Prevention means care. And by anticipating the human non-action, because by non-acting on human beings means losing a human being. So I agree, fully agree. Educating as support, as accompanying.
E il valore etico necessario
is
di ogni
the support, the guidance, the accompaniment is the task of every government. The politics does not assist, not support, does not accompany, doesn't deliver. So the accompanying, the Don Bosco accompanying is creating spaces that from margin are taking to the center of our heart and to the futures. So I heard this call very strong. I felt this call very strongly. So by ensuring the space, for me, is turning out to be a vocation. Because also in our daily life today, they ask me, what are you doing? Well, what I'm doing is I'm the space regenerator. Not from architectonical point of view. Absolutely, I'm not an architect. I'm nothing that requires a diploma. It's really the University of Life. Yes, of course, theology, philosophy. Of course, I'm studying theology and philosophy. I'm trying to mix all this with the life experience. So I'm the space regenerator, and by doing this, I ensure that such space, the human rights clock could go in the right direction, forward and not backward. So the 2030 agenda of the United Nations, and I'm talking about my life when I was at UN. I've been working there for 30 years. An ideal that I have with me that is there, that is, I'm feeling like in a ring where I'm always discussing, debating, but it's necessary that we reform it, but it's necessary, it's there. So now, think about 2030. So the agenda number 16 and number 4 of education. Agenda number 4 is it wants to create space of solidarity, of inclusion, respect for the society that are peaceful. They are peaceful and also healed in harmony. And so we have to work only on behalf of the community, the preventive justice on one side of community. So once again, we are back to the preventive word. Look, prevenire or preparedness, or we can solve this term by preparedness. Is a gift I have very few people, because most of the problems around are due, and for example, ecological crisis, is relegated on the fact that we do not foresee. We keep on living in the past. So we live the present without taking into account the care that it means protection of the person. So Don Bosco, I was thinking, I see that the feminine feature of being able of welcoming unexpected, having thorough, no referential, that generating the movement towards the others is not self-oriented or close to each other. How can you draw prevention or preparedness, strategic preparedness of Don Bosco, with play a game of the 15 cards? Francesco Stoppa recalls this game, the games of 15 cards. This was a game that was very trendy in Italy, in which you have 15 boxes that are mixed together, and then you have to put them a line in order, back in order, from 1 to 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in order to do that, now women leadership, the referment is there, and also the route for prevention. There must be a box that is empty, and this box is nothing than the engine of the community that puts in motion the rest, the not self-orientation that is there and is able to trigger, to move. This is preparedness and so back to hope, back to the logics. So it takes back to the clear reading of the reality. And there, the 15 boxes are all put in order, and therefore I could read them, interpret them in the right direction. Now, I would like that these 15 boxes really got me excited. Many Please, a bit slowly, slower. Yes, yes.
Sono impazzite, chiedo scusa alle
No,
traduttrici.
she's apologizing with interpreters because she's speaking very fast, but it's fine for us. So this classical, typical game, this void, this rupture in the chronology, this rupture is nothing else that looks like a disruption, look like a void, a blockade, but just an engine that put things in motion. So I look in this way, the preparedness and preventive action of Don Bosco. Trigger new actions, the boxes that can be put in order in a vertical and a horizontal following, but just because there is one empty space, this rupture, there is not a lack, it's an entry, it leads to solutions. I like to look at it in this way. I like to embrace in this way Don Bosco today, and I really thank to give us such encountering chance through you, a huge richness. Leadership of women that I developed throughout all these years was not easy, always easy, no. Because also in the summit and of the UN summits, you will see leadership as power and not as care. Leadership as lack of emotions in order to achieve a solution by forgetting that the encountering with a human being was not ever easy, but I encounter people who understood along my path, and even if they could not understand, they confound the point, the compassion with being good. It's always
no, è strategia, è umano.
With the goodness, the do-goodery, but she's good, she's fine. No way. It's being that empty box in order to trigger a movement and put things in motion. So we are in the loneliness also by embracing the human being and by replacing it at the center of the attention through care, solidarity, and possibilities. These are all values that in a certain way were criminalized. Think about what kind of resistance, ongoing resistance. We have to keep on going and exercise our resistance to trying to educate a human being. Does have a meaning, human beings, and to solidarity. It does have solidarity a future. These are all questions that we pose together with our kids, young people. Yes, we have to bear in mind all these questions. And now I'm concluding. It is to see preventiveness and with human value to create a human being, to protect human being, I correct myself, to humanize in a dehumanizing space, to disrupt everything that is not space, not place, and also preparation as being in between, that has as a main principle being together, inner life, life that is spiritual. So being in between is the gospel that leads us to the inner life and make us understand the strength of the Spirit. It's a personal experience. I thank you that you listen to me and not having not this academic approach, but I spoke really from my heart. Thank you very much.
Dottoressa Morelli, grazie.
Professor Morelli, thank you very much for your passion and because you really open up a space in the inner self of us. So the preventiveness as cure, the preventive system as care for women. And now we will open the dialogue here, the Q&As. I don't know if Professor Mortari, she's still with us. But I have Professor Morelli next to me, who likes to pose a question, comment, have its own question. Please go ahead. We have Professor Dr. Morelli here. She can reply. And also those who are connected online, please write your questions and we will try to respond to them. We have already some questions, but they're hidden. If some of you likes to have a say, please go ahead.
La parola è sua. Gracias. I'm going to speak in English. I can. Yes, thank you. It's more than a question, it's a reaffirmation of your definition, not to define the woman as an object. And that's what I think we make a mistake of trying to put the woman not as an entity, but it should be as we are a human being before we are woman. And so I think that we need to emphasize that aspect of being a woman. I'm a human being and I deserve my dignity as a human being and before I am a woman. So I think that you comment at the beginning, you said, we need to rethink about how we define the woman or how we do not define the woman.
Well, thank you. I can answer in English. I can answer in English if you want. O in italiano? Lei ha la traduzione? Do you have the translation? I can speak in Italian? Ondre, ok. Assolutamente la domanda era assicurarci
as for sure, the question is that we define a woman as a human being, fully endowed with their rights and rooted in the world, in the daily life and the space of living. Yes, absolutely. But not everybody thinks in this way. Therefore, the role played by education is there. And I do confirm the need to educate the human being in the education. And once again, this must be taken for granted. Some universities seems that I'm developing such a educating the human being for saying human being, for remaining human being. Many teachers who's teaching pedagogy told me, please come over. It's not so taken for granted in our university courses. We are focusing on the human being, on the human. We are concentrating on the emotions, but we forget to place the human being in the daily space and by fragmenting his DNA. So educating a human being and a woman is a huge task when it has to be carried out in those countries that forget that women is part of the human being family. Don't you agree? Oh, indeed, we are part of it. Then I will give the floor back to you. We have another online question that is more for also for Professor Mortari. How, as educators, female and male educators, we feel. Once again, she's back here. Sorry. As female and male educators, we feel the responsibility of giving our good testimony, of being strengthened. Sometimes we tend to hide our vulnerabilities. How can we teach, educate new generations and come in terms with their vulnerability if we ourselves hide our own vulnerability? That's a wonderful question that really put his finger on the right place. So the educator must show his fully fledged strength that really trigger in the other trust, so that we transfer energy. So if we are not able to do that, we are not able to make the other participating, trust in life and hope. On the other hand, we are managing to educating the other and accepting his fragility and vulnerability is the starting point for build its being. Only if we show this capacity of accepting our own fragility. And this occurs for educators not only by showing his own fragilities, when you show them, never happened, but through humility. The capacity that each time to show what we still do not know, do and say and explain. And at the same time, we will show that the path we're going along, we are trying to give an answer to our way of thinking, our way of acting. So it's not really the matter of revealing to the others our fragilities or cognitive limitation of daily life. Young people need to feel us support, a referring point that is able to act, but at the same time, they do not have to perceive us as knowing it all, the ones that think that they know everything. So we have to take into account also another virtue. Another virtue that we have to take into account, that is the mildness, the meekness. The meekness means to be on the background, but showing that you can realize the sense of the being, but in a meek way, without being too much assertive, being too much assertive. So not by showing too much, but by showing that we show that things make us incomplete, sometimes also not able to, but by showing the path, the hurdle that impede us to fully achieve our human being. Thank you very much. I hope I managed to reply, to answer your question. Now the floor is yours. I'm Sor Marta. I'm coming from Poland. I would like also to comment, make a comment. Thank you very much for these two remarks. Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much for these remarks. They really show us the huge, the resources of women, the huge resources of women, and really we need today to look at women as courageous beings that are able to love, and we have to start from small gestures, exactly as you said. Thank you very much to Professor Mortari, that she said that educating is caring for the soul. It's beautiful, our soul. It's true that because women are very much linked to beauty, but beauty, as you know, as you said, nurture the soul. So thank you very much for this concrete example that you have been giving. So it's true that we are capable of so many things, true. And thanks also that we have to search for relations with the others. And then also, Alessandra, I want to thank you for your testimonial as a woman that is courageous and humble. And also thank you for the schools, as hospitals have to become a protection zone, a free zone, because education is the first victim of war. And I saw really this wonderful work that my colleagues in Poland are doing. They are working very much with the Ukraine refugees, and we see it. We have to open spaces to give full care, and this is done with hidden gestures. The gestures are full of hope, peace, and then turn out to be bigger, and thanks to God's help. And I thank you also for having highlighted that education must be a necessary accompanying, because we do see that in many different places of the world, the women need to be accompanied, need to be supported, and maybe we are vulnerable, fragile, as you said, but with the help with God and others, we can achieve much more. I don't have any other questions, because your presentation are speaking on their own per se, and I thank all those women that are able to use such resources to help the others by starting with small gesture. Thank you very much.
Grazie per le sue
Thank you very much for your thanks.
E per la sua sintesi.
And for your sum up. Then I don't need to do that. Thank you very much. The floor is yours. I'm Sorpiera Cavaglia. I thank you very much for these great remarks. They open up new horizons, concrete horizons, and really future horizons. And we are completely agree and completely in harmony with Salesian charisma. So the question that I have after these two remarks, and I would like to ask both of you an answer, how to educate us to take care of us is not so spontaneous and natural. We need a path, we need a formational path, both for us as educators and also to educate the young people and the girls to take care of themselves. Before giving the floor for those who can answer, I read another question. The capacity of offering the care is a typical feminine feature. Wouldn't it be a challenge to educate also the male side to have and keeping the attitude of care? I dare to say, because I dare to answer. Educating and educating us for care, to care, it's an open question. We are the first who boycott ourselves, the first who have no compassion for ourselves. They are very harsh with ourselves. They judge ourselves. So therefore, this attitude of self-compassion towards ourselves, it's a necessary path for those very women that make our own life a gift for relations. Mortari said, and I repeat it in my sharing, everything starts from inner life, from the capability of being able of hearing us, this being in between. Between is born in the inner dimension, spiritual dimension, so being in between, and as Salesian and women and faith is a situation in which we are born, in which we grow as a community, as sisters, and that's why it should be placed at the center of our religion life. How to develop, to grow that compassion starts with ourselves at first. Professor Mortari, the floor is yours. Yes, I keep on with my thinking together with Alessandra, and I try to give an answer that gets to practice. How can we educate to care? First of all, by giving testimonials, by giving your daily experience. So by having care, you teach care. So acting that is able to show that we can care for him, for the others. When boys and girls are entering school, I'm always talking about kids because it's the most classical period of existence. Every action that we show mold them. So if we show that we are indifferent and we are able to get our education at the end, then the students, the kids will understand it. And if we teach to responsibility, empathy, capable of listening to, attention, they will learn it straight away. I had a great teaching from a kid in the primary school, from a student in primary school, and he asked me to storytells to tell me what happened the day before. I was sitting at the chair, but I was writing the register, but I was not looking at him. And he said to me, "Well, are you not interested in what I'm saying? I'm asking. You're not looking at me." I thought I'm doing that, even if I'm writing, I'm doing it. But actually, he was right. I was not listening. I was not caring. He took my face and turned my face toward his direction, and he told me, "Please, now you listen to me." And then he took my face once again, and he turned onto the register. He was really, what a great lesson I learned. So you are, when I'm asking care, I'm asking attention to me, you have to give me the attention. So sometimes we do not realize that through the words that we're saying, we show words that are not words that are coming from the dictionary. In the Gospel, there are so many passages, for example, Matthew says to pay attention to the words you're uttering. So if we're not having caring words, words that can treat, others learn people who words that do not have the power of the care. So gospel said Jesus is something that is done, is acting. Truth is done, is carried out through acting. Now, last question. First of all, I would like to thank for your remarks, but also for your life, for your testimonial. And I would like I would like to pose a question also to myself. When I could meet some people, the poor that feel to be abandoned or threat, I had the impression that these people are full of anguish, of preoccupation, of are full of anger. So in order to find a sense in life, they had to get over a personal phase. So how education can be help that could put together justice,
Alessandra.
Justice and compassion together, mercy together.
Posso aggiungere forse...
Misericordia. May I add something else? So last question, and then we will wrap up. I'm here. Sorry, I didn't see you. I am experiencing, I've been for 3 years together with kids. I have a socio-political formation. We are addressing many issues, and among them also some of that were raised this morning. They are very much linked to organizational, world organizations. So prejudice, for example, there were not, we do prejudice, for example. We should, prejudice that should be tumbled down, because I'm from Padua. Alessandra Morelli, she is from Verona, so we know pretty well that environment. And prejudice are very much linked to the family and also to a school, education that doesn't do much, doesn't do enough. The actions that international organizations are doing does not really heard and get to the young people, for example, 20 years old, or the ones that are approaching high school, the end of their high school. So I think they should do more, the international organizations. They should open experiences spaces, so more experiences spaces within these organizations, because if young people do not see, they're not really touched with their hands, it's very difficult. The others remain far away, and also keep on being the peril, the danger. That's what I'm perceiving in a lack from this association in order to get situation more fluid, more liquid, more fluid. Thank you for your questions. It's important to unite justice and mercifulness. I thank you both, Professor, and we will wind us. Professor Mortari. The first question, I'll start by saying that people who are embraced, marginalized, the poorest that are embraced have inside inner self as a cause of a form of anger. And so what we could do, and so that they can work on themselves and on their anger, on their fury, wrath, because sometimes anger controls our acting. We cannot straight away put in action concrete actions. We need to have a time of the listening, a time where the other could talk about himself and know himself, so that we can do something. If we can work on a path that can be proactive, so the listening is a slow time. It must be found. We keep on acting, but the acting needs his time. He needs to take his time and stop it and take a break. So the educating to meditations, because there is a time in which you can listen to yourself and understand yourself. How can we couple justice and mercifulness? This is the very action of the care. So we can do it through the so-called manifest of the care. So, well, I list all the action that we can do for the care by taking into account that justice issue is very much linked to politics. So I'm referring to another question. I enjoy very much hearing that from a sister that a school was dwelling upon sometime in school the subject do not covers the education aspect onto politics, or so in this context you can develop policies for justice. But we are not changing the world. The world is changed by strong policies and political actions, but we can contribute because we can contribute to a consistent behavior of daily acting. In this way, injustice can disruptured. When there is an author that he was in the Nazi camp, he was kept on repeating that I didn't contribute. I left things as they were going. I should have acted. So there is another. Part of another intervention. I really compliment with all of you, those who are very much committing with such school, that has such approach, because school in general doesn't have such approach. It's not doing that. I'm thinking about the reference to the prejudices. Working on prejudices can be done only with a school with care, because fighting prejudice, you can fight prejudice by taking position against something that I feel, and teachers are scaring of doing that because they feel not legitimate, because they think that if they take a clear-cut position against prejudice, they think they're judged, they think they can run a risk. So all the time I was trying to work on this direction. I heard that I had some parents that were criticizing it, were rebuking it, were asking not to proceed in that way. Teachers sometimes do not do it, very often do not do it, because are not well prepared for it. The Italian state completely forgets of schools. I have no fear of declaring publicly, and forgot to train teachers and professors. If you do not train them on a political, ethical level, they will not have the right instruments. So we are not heard when we keep on repeating that, and they will not heard. Like things cannot be changed. That's not true. Well, very rapidly. Sister Bruna, thank you very much for your question. That was highly stimulating us in our thoughts. Yes, when I'm talking about spaces that turn out to be places, because human being, men, women, are not living in a non-place. We need space to cultivate ourselves. We define pretty well, but spaces are lacking, and your space, it's very important, because spheres are encountering, meeting, well, the others is experiences. In diversity, I focus on immigrants, migrant, so space for me turn out to be not only the very one where care has a more practical feature, and trigger is a revolution to protect human beings, but it's a very space where the fears of those who are landing. I've heard that you were talking about migrants in some places where they are a bit rejected, where they get there and they see the fear who is welcoming them, and by acknowledging that, of course, who is hosting and welcoming has its own fear. So these spaces are no longer in our cities. Educating, school turn out to be such spaces. The very box I was hinted before. Education is born in the community, with and among, between. This is the place. So get scares and fears encountered is very important. And welcoming, it's really the mirror of being able of living evangelical and human values. We are tested each year. You have been tested for 30 years because of that fear of the refugees. Why you're not getting any answers back? I was exhausted. I really wanted to delay them and so please remember, if there is no space are really very much welcome. I hope that all will become regenerators of spaces. I thank you all, the two speakers, really my thanks from the bottom of my heart, and really the floors to those who will introduce good practices. And I quote the sentence of Pope Francis by talking about culture. Yes, we take caring of giving everything of us, but at the same time, we will receive something from them, from refugee students, marginalized. We will receive what is lacking in us. So in this relation, in this wealth, in this exchange, and in particular the work for women, because each of us was born in having a ceiling above his head and of having a mother. So we have women that can offer such gifts, such wealth, and at the same time we receive what is lacking in us. Thank you very much.